Take
just
two, yeah.
Our usual technical problems, which is just fantastic.
Tom's technical tips need improving.
Tantrums.
Yeah. So our guest has been waiting patiently.
He's been
patiently.
A good egg.
We knew something was wrong when he started doing this.
Yeah, just waving at us normally. So that was a thing.
Yeah.
But also, I think we're time traveling today, aren't we? Because it's 2022 right now because we're pre-recording.
Oh,
but
yeah.
This isn't going out till 2023.
This is Back to the Future stuff, isn't it? We're going into the future.
We've gone multiverse.
Maybe that's why the sound went on. Yeah, we're going too fast.
Our future selves were saying, don't record this episode because this will be the end of your
maybe
jobs.
It was saving Chris.
Saving Chris.
It was saving Chris.
That's what it was.
Saving Chris. That's what it was.
We've given up.
That was your opportunity to back out, Chris, and you didn't take it.
Is it too late now, or
it is?
It is too late.
Oh, it's too late.
Welcome, Chris Duffett. Yes, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
Well,
good to have you, mate. Good to have you here,
mate. Thank you for coming on this mad daft podcast that we do. It's boss to have you. I first met Chris, Tom, when
does this story have something to do with cheese?
Only because we.
Oh yeah, cheese.
Do you like cheese, by the way?
A bit of it, but not a lot of it.
Well, so I must have got told he liked cheese.
Okay.
Right? And he brought me a bottle of red wine, so he's a good egg, right? That he'd made himself, by the way. Yeah, he'd made himself.
Christian wine. Yeah, it's always like 20% proof, isn't it?
It was boss.
Just one glass.
So we had cheese and wine.
Oh, lovely.
Right? I think you stayed. I can't remember if you stayed over or just stayed for tea. You stayed for tea, I think. You were on your tour of being president, I think. We'll get to that later.
El Presidente.
El Presidente. Right, and you came here for tea, and I gave him like a meal with loads of cheese because he likes cheese. So I like everything had cheese on everything. Yeah. And then we had cheese and wine as well.
Stop it off.
And he had to go and speak somewhere else. So that's how I first met Chris. I think I might have met him earlier than that at some conference or something because he gets around, but he's a good lad to have on.
Everyone has one of those things, don't they, where you tell someone at some point you like it, and then that's it forever. Yeah. So I told my Emma that I liked white chocolate at some point, and now everyone with great delight gives me white chocolate. And I recently kind of had to say, I do like it, but
not that much.
Not that.
It happened to me with tea cakes.
Tea cakes.
I was being polite and said, I love them, yeah. And then every time I went to this person's house, they specially got them in for me. And I actually don't like them.
Yeah.
But I had to eat them. But then I felt obliged because they were getting them especially for me.
This is why you stopped visiting people in the church, wasn't it? Because they didn't give you the right.
We couldn't all the time.
Chris, we've blown Alan right up because people from the church have watched this and we've told him all his secrets. Like he won't speak to you for the first few months just because he doesn't think eventually you won't come back to church.
Well, Chris, you must know what it's like. People visit and they love it and it's all boss and this is great. It's the best thing ever. And then you never see them again.
Yeah.
And I just think, what's the point of me learning your name? I can only know so many names.
The other one, Chris, that is a definite is if you get a pastoral visit from Alan, and fair play.
You're probably dying to be fair.
Something must have gone wrong. But secondly,
when do you visit anyone?
Secondly, if you serve that man instant coffee, he's never coming back again.
I do this thing, Chris, where I look at them and I think, have they got a cafetiere? Which in Netherton, probably 99% of the time is a no. Yeah. So I just go, I'll have tea, please.
So we're blowing him up on the podcast, and normally it's live. This is a pre-record, but all the people commenting going, oh yeah, he's done that to me. He's done that to me. He's done that to me. One of the new people's like, yeah, he still hasn't spoken to me.
Yeah. The worst one I ever, and I don't even know whether I should tell this story, but
don't then.
No,
it'll save me editing later.
No, I'm doing it.
It'll save me editing.
The worst one ever, Chris, was I went to visit someone for a particular thing. I won't say what it was, but there was a woman sat next to me.
A man of discretion. Carry on.
It was a funeral visit. Okay, it was a funeral visit.
All right.
So funeral visit. So I don't really know these people. I've never met them. And there's a woman sat next to me on the couch with a bin bag underneath her, right? Next minute, the woman who's invited me in for their funeral says to me, starts shouting at her that she's wet herself, right, on the bin bag, right? And I'm sat next to her and I'm thinking, wow, okay. And then they throw her in the garden, which was just a bit weird, like, because she was quite old, and they put her in the garden. And then they picked this bin bag up and carried it to the kitchen sink. They went past the downstairs toilet, right? Carried it to the kitchen sink and poured it in the sink. And then said to me, "We're sorry about that. Can I get you a cup of tea?" I went, "Nah, you're all right. I've just had one before I come out." Wow.
If that's still in, it's only because I forgot to edit it out.
Oh, come on.
Go on, then, we've got Chris here anyway.
Yeah,
we've not got
Chris
him here to
Chris
listen
Duffett.
to our nonsense.
We haven't. Yeah, we're not listening to us. It's boss to have you in, Chris.
Thank you, Alan.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, married, kids, what
Beautiful.
you do, that type of stuff.
Well, just before I do that, Alan, before meeting you, I didn't think cheese sweats was like a thing. But after having a meal at your house, I was sweating.
Oh.
And it was like, I think I've eaten too much cheese. It was like it is a definite thing. It really is.
Could be weird.
So it's good. It's good to be in Finnegan's. Love it. Thanks for the brew. Also, did you know you can get coffee bags?
Coffee bags.
Coffee bags.
Yeah, I've done coffee bags.
I think you might be one of these guys, Alan, that'll have a few coffee bags in your man bag.
I should take them with me, shouldn't I? That's
but I think that says a certain thing, because I used to go around with like fruit tea. That I'd have a fruit tea.
Yeah, but you're southern.
And
that always went down like
you drink fruit tea. Who else drinks? You're on it. Oh, juice.
I can see.
That's like a fruit tea.
It's like taking the kids out again.
When I handed people the fruit, like the tea bag, the fruit tea bag, they'd I just could feel the respect.
You know what I'm
leaving. Their respect for me and my self-respect.
If you handed me a fruit tea bag, I'd just go yeah, and throw it in the bin. Anyway, Chris, sorry.
Hang on, you wouldn't compost it? That's just terrible.
Oh, Chris, where are you from? Well, we're getting to that.
Yeah, I live in rural Cambridgeshire. So our nearest town is St Neots. Yeah,
nice.
Patron saint of fish.
Okay.
Oh.
Or fishmongers. No, it must be fishmongers, right? Can't be just fish.
Got to be fishmongers, yeah.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Must be. So
I live with it, to be honest, but it sounds lovely.
It does. It does sound nice.
Yeah, beautiful place. Yeah.
No wonder you didn't want to come here in person. You're only willing to do a Zoom record.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself then, Chris.
He's regretting his life decision.
Yeah, what
Can you still hear us, Chris? He's going to do
that.
Like, I can't hear you guys. Yeah. Sorry. Bye.
So yeah, I'm married, have 3 grown-up-ish children, and so I've been married for 24 years.
It's good going.
Believe it or not. And oldest is 21. Works for a company that I haven't got a clue what he does. It's like he's talking a different language, describing what he does. It's like, and I always take the mic. I was like, when you talk to your work colleagues, are you like, beep, 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 beep? Because it's all computer speak. So I'm like, it's like, anyway.
That means he's got money. Yeah, that's the one who's gonna look after you, Chris.
He's gonna pick your nursing home, treat him well.
Yeah.
No, we've decided to be kind to him.
He's gonna program the robots that look after you in your old age.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So your name's Chris.
I'm Chris. I'm part of a church, right? But
okay.
Please don't take the mick about it, because I find it really hard to like tell people that I'm part of this church. So the church is called Gambling Gay Baptist Church.
Gambling Gay Baptist Church.
That is a name.
That is a proper name.
They should change.
And I have to do.
Is that a village?
Is that a place?
That's the name of the village, right?
Yeah.
But I always have to say to people, it's a real place, and it's real.
It's like there's a place up north called Cockermouth, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you think that's an unfortunate town to live in.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar.
This is why the audio didn't work at first, Chris. This is why God was giving us, well, you probably, a helpful out, and yet
Don't
here
start.
we are.
You
That's
can
right.
edit it.
I'm just marking all the points when I need to edit and again.
Edit. Yeah.
But it is one. I mean, Cockermouth's one of those places where you're like,
Yeah.
where are you going?
Yeah, you just wouldn't say. I'd just say the town nearest to that. I wouldn't. That word would never pass.
I would
my
just
lips.
not live there.
Yeah, you couldn't live there.
Couldn't live there.
Couldn't live there. I bet
as nice as it probably is.
Property is cheaper there, I'd imagine.
Just because of the name.
The name.
Like,
I'm sure.
yeah. So yeah. So Chris.
Yeah.
I've got you down as an artist, evangelist. You've done loads. But first of all,
Stop it! Come on.
Yeah,
No, go on. Yeah. Go
how
on.
did you come to faith? What was, what happened?
Yeah.
What was your sort of background, and how did that happen that you came to faith and then started this kind of what seems to be like a bit of an adventure of a life, to be honest?
Yeah, it has been. Yeah. So faith for me was just utterly irrelevant and boring, and I saw it firsthand. So I went to very traditional Anglican church with all the words and the sit up and sit down. Would always get in trouble as a kid because I found it boring, and it didn't help because the vicar was my dad.
Yeah.
So it was like, so at the age of 12, I was like,
You're one of them vicar's kids that was.
I know.
Yeah. My kids do tell me outright church is boring, and I'm thinking, well, I did a lot of what happened at church today, so that isn't a personal attack.
No. Sorry, we will butt in, but sorry.
Yeah,
carry
Love
on.
it. No, but for me, I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm not doing any of this. It doesn't make sense to me at all. And why would I go to a place full of older people, elderly people, and do stuff that I can't get my head around it. So I just disengaged and became that typical vicar's kid.
Yeah.
That amazingly my kids haven't like become the typical vicar's kids, because they're just been amazing, to be honest. My kids, they're good friends and we get on well. But I just fell out with my mum and dad big stars. So I started at a very young age drinking like a lot.
What, like 5 years old or what? How young?
What, 12, 13?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Young. Young.
Yeah, so just spending a lot of time out. Yeah, I was a nightmare. I look back and I just think I was a nightmare for my parents.
Yeah.
And the way that I treated them.
Chris, was it just rebelling that your dad's a vicar, so you think, what can I do?
I think it was, and a bit of Tommy. It was a bit of hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I became the wrong crowd, and and then my sister. We used to get absolutely wasted together, my sister, and she wouldn't mind me saying this, but she used to boast about the amount of people that she used to sleep around with, and she. We'd talk about sex and stuff a lot and different people that we'd met, and then all of a sudden in front of my eyes, my sister utterly changed. And it was like having one sister and then seeing someone, who is this? And she said to me, I've become a Christian. I was like, what?
Why?
And
I feel like she betrayed you at that point, Chris. You're like, what's happened?
It was, but I was so fascinated because what I saw was it was real. It wasn't just, let me tell you some words about what it means to be a Christian. The evidence was in front of my eyes. So it was from this life to that life. And I know it sounds a bit cheesy now saying it, but she looked me in the eye and she said, Chris, I have to tell you something. Jesus, he died for you. And I thought that was just absurd. I was like, what are you talking about? And I could not stop thinking about it. Jesus died for me. And it got under my skin. It got into my thoughts. Every moment I kept thinking about what my sister said. And then my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, should we go to this youth thing that's on at her local church? I was like, yeah, let's go along. And it was like I walked in and I just felt loved. It was like just walking in and just having this big embrace of my entire being loved.
Yeah.
And there was a vicar. He was pretty cool, actually. This young vicar that spoke about what Jesus had done. And afterwards, I went up to him and said, "Look, I need this." And he was like, "Yeah, you can have it." So that's how I became a Christian. I was 17 years old,
Right.
and I thought it might, that my relationship with my mum and dad would probably stay the same because they just did my head in. You know, I was 17 years old and they were, yeah. But it changed. It utterly changed the way that I started talking to my parents and treating people.
Yeah.
It changed. So yeah, that was my faith journey.
So what was sorry, Carl, what was it then? Was it because, do you think, I mean, obviously we would say as people of faith and a belief in, you know, a higher power, that there would be something about God that was involved in that process. But the fact that was probably a message, you know, like a lot of people have heard a lot, you know, Jesus died to, you know, forgive your sins so that you can have relationship with God. It's something that people probably hear, even in Liverpool, probably still shouted at them. Do you know what I mean? But like, what was it about that kind of, was it because it was your sister? What, the timing of it, or can you pin it down to, was it
utterly? So seeing the integrity and the realness, I knew she wasn't blagging it. And it her words just rang so true, getting right under my skin, because I saw it. I saw something, like the evidence right in front of my eyes. And I think that the timing of it, and you see, I knew the story, right? I knew. But to grapple with it, that actually this could be for me, rather than a story for other people or for a community or the world, or actually this is for me. And I think the timing was quite amazing. Just my oldest sister became a Christian, who then introduced this sister that spoke to me. I then became a Christian, and all three of us, our lives were utterly transformed at that moment. Like, from I'm not having any of this to boom, I'm having this, and I'm going to give my all into it.
And it was similar for me at 16 when I seen someone that I suddenly realized this is kind of real.
Yeah,
it makes me think about my life choices at the moment, though, Tom, as well. I'm not gonna lie, but because so you become this, you come to faith at 17 from this kind of dysfunctional background that has done your parents' heads in, and then I know you end up working in a church in Chester as an evangelist. And first, explain what an evangelist is.
I didn't even know it was. People told me, Alan, that's what I was, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
So it's like pretty brand new Christian in Chester. I was studying art and theology. I didn't even understand what I was going to go and study in Chester. And people were like, "Hey, you're really good at evangelism." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
It sounded freaky. And it sounded like an American thing. And what they were saying is, you're really good at letting others know what Jesus has done. And I thought I was just living my life right. And I was just like, "Hey, I've had this and it's really good. You can have some of this too." And then, started working with this church as an evangelist. And I spent most of my time sitting on the streets with people who are homeless. Made a load of money doing that, because people would come up to me and offer me money, which was great.
I was trying to think how I was trying to work out how you made money from that. I thought, is he robbing homeless people? Like loads of money. Wow, right, go on.
One fella, he came up to me and he gave me a $5, and he was wasted, but he goes, here you go, son. Gave me a $5. He went, "How long have you been on the streets?" And I went, "Oh, about 20 minutes. He wanted his $5 back, but he wasn't getting it.
So what was that? He wasn't getting it. God loves you, but I'm keeping your money. So what was that? What you sat? What led you to sit down with homeless people? Was that part of the sort of?
So I was doing a load of stuff like on the streets, and like sharing the good news of what Jesus has done on the street. So I do like art stuff out on the streets. I do street performance, but I'd also hang out, and I got to know in Chester people who are homeless, and we used to just hang out. So I'd just sit on the street and hang out. You know, there'll be a bottle of sherry sitting between us. I wouldn't be like swigging away at the sherry, but I'd be listening. I'd be talking. I'd be getting some food, and we'd have something to eat together. And I just gently show people that there is hope. You know, there really is something that you can have, like I've had. And it utterly changed my life. I wrote a book called Smackheads and Fat Cats, which
Smackheads.
I got in trouble for saying smackheads once, and you got a book out of it.
I know.
It's not fair.
Well, you know, people used to talk about the people that I'd hang out with as just dirty smackheads. What are you doing? You know, why are you hanging out with them? And I prayed with a friend of mine called Simon, and Simon had taken a bad hit of heroin, and I thought he was going to die. I honestly thought he was going to die in front of my eyes, and I panicked, and I thought, what do I do? What do I do? Didn't have a mobile. You know, this was years ago. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I prayed, and right in front of my eyes, and it utterly freaks me out thinking about it now, right in front of my eyes, he got better, like instantly better. And he turned to me and he went, "Hey, that's it, Chris." He said, "The hand of God," was his words.
Wow.
Freaked me out. Utterly freaked me out. And he went off with his so-called mates who were like, "I'll just leave him alone. He's a dirty smackhead. What are you doing? Don't worry about him." But I was really worried. Went to hang out with him in the soup kitchen the following day, and he said, I didn't know what was going on other than I knew you were praying for me, and a wave of love came over me, and I got better. And that moment, he was healed from his heroin addiction. So he stopped taking, like, how does that happen? Utterly healed from a heroin addiction.
Wow.
Healed from taking a bad hit of heroin that I thought was going to kill him. And I mean, he was a mess. And he just knew that God was like there as I was praying for him. It just blew me away. And it changed my life. So, and it, you know, you might be hearing this as you're hanging out in Finnegan's listening to this, and you might think, "Serious? How does that happen?" I do not know, other than I've just kept doing that. I've just kept praying for people, kept asking for miracles, and some freaky stuff happens. And it does blow me away, but I know that it shows that God is real. This stuff's true. You know, people are like, I didn't even think there could be a God, and I've just encountered this.
I think what also people might feel is like strange for them in their kind of is that you came to faith, but also that then took you, in a sense, to sit in with homeless people, and people would probably think you've gone mad. You know, but again, that's been like somewhat my experience as well, that if people say, "Where is God in the world?" and all this suffering and all that, and I can't answer all those questions, but I do know that when people seem to take their faith seriously, God sort of sends them to broken people to, like, you know, if there's something of God happening in my life, he sort of directs you towards broken, hurting people, and seems to be with you in the midst of those moments, like you're experiencing there. You know, like people probably thought, your mates probably, when you come to faith at 17, you know, if they see, suddenly sitting on the street with homeless people, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Tom's part. Tom originally came to our church as part of the Eden Project, so you'll have heard of the Eden Project. So you'll know the kind of background that Tom come from. Tom moved from a nicer place to where we live now, and it's that what God's done in your life that causes you to do that somehow. As he's saying, some people will think you're crazy, because some people. I've known people who've gotten into church, and it's almost as a life improvement thing. It's almost, I've come to faith, and now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and life's going to be amazing. And yet you're saying it in a sense, you've had it's been amazing, but it also took you lower in people's eyes, in culture's eyes. It took you to the downtrodden. Is that fair to say? And so it's not that message that kind of was around in the 80s. Come to Jesus and life will be amazing. It is amazing, but for totally different reasons, and sometimes heartbreaking reasons. I've found over the years that it is amazing and it is an adventure, but it can be really, really tough, tough as well. And it does take you to them type of people that are broken but are utterly loved by God. So wow, So sorry, I can't remember what were you asking?
Good. I don't know. We go sometimes, Chris. We are light and fluffy on Finnegan's,
and it might go back light and fluffy in a minute, Chris.
It can happen quite quickly.
It can literally go straight back. But
it's good. It's good, isn't it?
Good. I've seen you around and that in different conferences and everything else, and you talk about being on the streets a lot, and you do. I mean, I've seen you with a crib on the streets and as a special king. I know that you also put a sofa out in the street sometimes and just sit on it. I've seen you with signs, free hugs.
Yeah.
Talk me through all that kind of stuff.
Oh, mate, I could talk all day. I could talk all day. But at the heart of it is that good news needs to be understood as good news. Otherwise, it's no news, which is bad news. And that's my heart. I want people to get what I've got. So free hugs. I have hugged thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. No joke. I've hugged. I mean, I was known as the free hug man in Peterborough for 10 years. You know, people would look out for me, and there was a team.
I would swerve you right off.
I know. I tell you what, I'm
saying free hugs. So I'd turn around on the street and walk the other way. I don't know if that's the Liverpool thing that's messed me up. They can't show affection in the Northwest, other than just getting into you. But
sorry.
Really?
So what? So people. So you'd offer a free hug, and people would see you as this guy who'd offer free hugs.
Yeah, and people, perhaps half of the thousands upon thousands will ask what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to say, look, I just want to show something of God's love. I believe there is a God. I want to show that he's really close. It's like this hug. Or I'd say something like, I just want to remind you that you're loved and known by God. And it sounds so cheesy, right? But people would respond well to that. They'll be like, seriously? I didn't think like God could love someone like me. Or they'd want to know more.
Yeah.
On my team for 10 years, I had this amazing team in Peterborough city centre. And on the team, I had Sheila in her 70s, and I had Sister Catherine, who was a nun. She still is a nun, right? Yeah. But they were the best huggers ever. And people would just make a beeline for them. Hug a nun. Who wouldn't want to hug a nun? Sheila just had the most extraordinary ability to make people cry. Not because she wouldn't let go. Like
she was wrestling to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's this fella on his way back from like a business lunch, briefcase in hand, and he looks at Sheila, and she says, "Do you want a hug?" And he looks at her and he just starts crying. And she's like, "Are you all right?" He goes, I don't know. What's going on? Something's going on. And she said, "Oh, I think God is like stirring your heart." I don't know why she used that word, but he went, "I don't believe in an effing God." Just like, yeah, that's all right. Just take a seat. 45 minutes later, he's composed himself and he's able to get back to work because he's got questions. He's like, "What am I feeling? What is this? What is?" All through, "Do you want a hug?"
Wow.
It sounds a bit freaky, right? But I've encountered stuff like that you can't really explain, but people have experienced the good news.
Right.
And I've got questions about it. Just think of like my mate Jenny. She came up with an idea. She goes, "What we're going to do? We're going to do postcards from heaven." I was like, "That is just that's just stupid, right?
Okay, Jen.
I was like, all right, yeah, it's your week to come up with what we're doing. And she literally got these postcards and a pen, and that was it. She just handed them out, said, right, I'll have a little team over here. And she was just writing little messages of encouragement. And I had a team the other end of the street, and I look over and she's talking to this young couple, and it had been raining. And all of a sudden, there's this young guy, and he's lying on the street in a puddle, and I'm like, flipping it, what's going on? So I rush over, I sprint, okay, I jog, no, I walk fast down the street, and I go, Jen, what's going on? She goes, I didn't touch him, I didn't do anything, I didn't do anything. People are gathering round. Yeah, people are gathering round saying, should we call for an ambulance? He's kind of lying on the street looking petrified, and he manages to get up, and I put him on a step, and he's not able to speak like many words of English, but he just says this, I have met God. That was his words, right?
Yeah.
I've met God. And what happened was Jenny said to him, do you want me to pray for you? And he was like, yeah, sure. And she just went, Lord God, would you bless this young man? And the power of God fell on him. Like, this is going to sound so freaky. And as I'm saying it, it's just like, this is weird. But he fell over because he had never encountered this before. And then the following week,
that's just
in a puddle.
Thank you, Jesus.
And all he can say is, I've met God.
Wow.
And he wants to know. So next week, he brings all his family, his cousins, his mum, his dad, and we meet in Greg's the Baker's, and we have a brew and a pasty. And he goes, Chris, can you do that thing so that my cousin can land on the floor? I'm like, no, I can't. No, that wasn't me, right? you know. But he's had an encounter with God so powerfully that he falls over. You know, it's like he's so overwhelmed on the street, and he's like, I need to know what this is.
Wow.
Anyway, crazy stuff on the streets, like a sofa and free hugs and giving stuff away. Using art. I love painting on the streets and giving art away.
I just want to put a disclaimer out first for all those people who are not used to that kind of and maybe come to Finnegan's bar occasionally, that when a Christian says, can I pray for you?
Yeah.
And you say, yeah, they mean right then. They're going to put hands on you, right? They're literally, you're not expecting that. You're thinking it's going to happen sometime in the future, maybe at their bedside in the night. But no, it's usually going to happen then. Just be aware. You're
letting people onto the trick now, aren't you? Though?
So can I pray for you? No. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sure. Right, let me go.
No, Fab. I mean,
and he could end up in a puddle.
Alan, can I just be honest with you?
Yeah.
I said to a fellow in Wetherspoons, I was like, oh, what happened to your wrist? He goes, oh, I broke it. I broke my hand. It's all shattered. I was like, oh, we offer to pray for people. Would you like me to pray for you? And he went, yeah, okay. And I was like, I'll do that later. And he held out his hand to me.
No.
He went, go on then. So in the middle of Spoonies, and it was so busy, I held his hand.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people were like, what's going on there? And I'm holding his hand. And I say this prayer, and it's like, I feel an idiot.
Yeah.
Holding this fella's hand in the middle of Spoonies. And I say this prayer for his hand, and he goes, flip, and beep, 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 beep. What have you done? He said. I was like, oh, sorry, mate. Did that hurt? He goes, no, what have you done? What have you done? And he starts moving his fingers, takes off the Velcro support of his hand. He goes, what have you done? What have you done? I'm like, I was just praying for you. He goes, but it's better.
Yeah.
It is. And he just was so... He couldn't compute that God could have done it. So he kept going, you're a good man. I was like, no, it's not me, mate. It's not me. I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the one time when I was ready to pray later. This guy held out his hand going, go on then.
Yeah.
But
you said then, and you just sort of dropped it in. You said, I felt a bit daft. I felt a bit stupid. I've heard you talk about this stuff that you do on the streets because people I find that people feel a little sometimes, and maybe doing this massively overt stuff like going out with signs, free hugs and all, and sitting on a couch and all that. People feel a little bit timid about sharing their faith in general sometimes. Never mind being so overt. But I've heard you say that you feel that way at times as well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That you sit there sometimes for 45 minutes thinking, what am I doing? So
honestly, I mean, my heart's like beating like crazy, thinking.
So surely you know, surely it's, and everyone.
I'm always out my comfort zone. Honestly,
I'm always out your comfort zone.
I'm always out of it. I'd rather not. You know, like.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
I've done some stupid stuff. I was on a stag do, Alan.
Yeah.
And you know, Tom, you've been on stag do's, right?
I've been on a few.
And you're the boys together, right? You're the boys, and it was quite dignified stag do, to be honest. It was a former student from the Light College, and it was like whiskies around the fire at night. Oh, nice. It was, very very posh. Yeah. It was a posh stag do.
Didn't end up on a ferry to Ireland. No.
And then there was a hen party and a hen do going on, not connected to the wedding, completely utter on this campsite. They were not dignified. My goodness, they were drinkers. They were loud, and they loved.
Yes,
they loved bubbles for some reason. Yeah. They did a lot of bubbles, and we'd spent like 3 days on this stag do, and we just ignored them because they were loud. There was loads of them, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I've spent 3 days here, and I haven't blessed the bride. This doesn't seem right. I haven't said to the bride, look, I'd love to pray for you for your wedding. And there was something in me that was like, this isn't right. I'm here. They're there. And just before heading off to get the train, I was like, I have to do something. Looked in my bag and I had a card. So I wrote out a card where I wrote a blessing, and I put in some encouragements. And I thought, I'm going to go over to that hen party and I'm going to give that card to the bride. So the boys were like, what are you doing? My heart was like, I feel an idiot. I march over to the hen party. I could not have picked a more inappropriate time to go over to give a blessing from a minister for the bride because they were naked.
Wow. This was your Becky's hen do.
They were.
How did they get on a boat? Are we still on the boat?
Where no, it's in a campsite.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's in a
campsite.
It's
a hot day.
It for a hen do, weren't they?
That's not glamping, is it?
No, that's not glamping.
They decided, it's hot. We need to get sun cream on. And I walk over. As I'm walking over, I'm thinking, oh, they're naked. So I'm like, but they've seen me walk over.
Committed now.
So I'm like, what do I do? I'm like,
yeah,
I'll come back. I've got a card for the bride. And one of them shouts out, hey, it's all right. I'm thinking, is it? Is it all right? They're all. So I go, look, I've got a card for the bride. I've written a blessing for the bride. I'm a Baptist minister. It's a bit like being a vicar, and I've got a blessing for her. And this girl looks at me, and I'm just trying to keep eye contact, right? She looks at me and she goes, I think I'll go and get a t-shirt on. She goes and gets a t-shirt. They all do, thankfully. Honestly.
There's girls, let's put some tops on.
I felt an idiot.
That's a postcard from heaven.
Yeah. It was as if I'd walked over with bunches of flowers for every one of them, because they were so moved by me going over to give this card. They wanted to know what was in it, why I'd written it. They wanted for me to pray for the bride. It was just crazy, but I felt an utter idiot.
Wow. Yeah. No.
So why, Chris? You get people like we get them in Liverpool who on the street and shout, preach shouting or whatever, and not all of them are bad news. Some people are doing. I see them and I feel bad for them, because I just think that's not the way to do it necessarily. I'm all for telling people about Jesus, and what you're describing is out of my comfort zone for sure.
Yeah.
But what do you make of that, and why it feels like you are trying to do it differently? but you're still kind of in your head thinking, no, I've got to get this message out there, you know, to my embarrassment or, you know, whatever it may be. So how are you approaching it differently?
So we're trying to do it so that people can get it, so it's good, so they can engage with it, ask questions, experience. You know, I've taken, and this is a little bit freaky, Tom, but I've taken like what we do in church, I put into Weatherspoons. So like the music, so Sunday morning, like just built up this relationship with a local Spoonies and put music in on Sunday morning, and people got it. They loved it. It was just like, whoa, this sounds good. And it wasn't like we're here to preach at you and tell you how bad you are.
Yeah.
But we're here to add something to you, and you can ask us questions about it. And so on the streets, I'm always looking for that, I get it kind of moments. Because I'm wanting people to experience, not just to hear, but experience something of like what I've got. Because I think what I've got is just brilliant. It's like, I've got hope. I really do. I've got hope. And loads of people around me haven't. And those listening you might just feel hopeless. You might just feel like, flipping it, I can't bear another day. But what I've got, I want people to connect with. So doing stuff that people can ask questions about and can, you know, I just think of this thing I did in Norwich, right? It was a 20-foot blackboard that said, before I die, I want to ... And I just had some chalks and said to people, just write what you want to do before you die. And it just got full, like utterly, with hopes and aspirations, dreams. I mean, some of it was just like crazy and silly, and but a lot of it was like this fella, he wrote, before I die, I want to have lived a full life and not cut it short, was what he wrote. And he stood next to me and I was like, mate, how come you written that? He goes, I haven't told anyone this, but I've been planning to end my life all month.
Wow.
So I'm looking at what he's written and I'm looking at him. I go, mate, can I tell you about the hope that I've got? He goes, yeah, go on. And he just listens about the hope that I have, being loved and known by God, about the life of Jesus given for me, stuff he's never heard before. He gives me a big hug before he goes and he says, you have given me hope.
Wow.
And if I'd called the art thing, you know, the before I die, I want to, if I'd called it have hope in Jesus, no one would have engaged with it, right? Because it would have been a bit like, flipping it, what's going on? And I wouldn't engage with it probably, you know, but and so I'm just wanting to connect with people where they're at and share what I've got.
I mean, I find that interesting. I do know you and I know of you, and everything about what you do and your message always seems to be on the positive side of stuff and on the love of God. You major on the love of God from an outsider looking in at your life. I don't want to cut short what you do. But that's what it kind of looks like. Everything you talk about, everything you focus on is on about how much God utterly loves us, right? And I think that's fabulous in lots of ways. It doesn't delve into all the hard sides of life and the questions of stuff. However, I think people need to know they're loved above anything else. And I think sometimes people's engagement with church can often be that they come out feeling worse. Like somehow we get told we're bad more than we get told we're loved. So I want to congratulate you in lots of ways about that. But there obviously is tough times along the journey as well, Chris. You know, you've hinted at stuff. I'm sure you've seen stuff which has been really difficult to process in terms of that. Because you always get, if God loves me, then why? Why does this happen? Kind of thing. How do you deal with that, mate? Sorry.
Mate. It's great. It's a great question. And I deal with it not in any kind of naive, I'll be all right in the end kind of way. I deal with it like through saying to God, help.
Yeah.
Would you help? And there are times when in my life that's been the only thing I've been able to say, help. Because things are difficult, stuff's bad. You know, I've got journeying with a number of friends at the moment who've going like dark times, seriously messed up, abusive, terrible mess in their lives. And all I can do is say help.
Yeah.
And I dare to say that, you know, I dare to say, you, God, are able to come and help in this mess. I'm not going to excuse or try and explain away the pain and the suffering that people have encountered. Listen, on the streets, I have met hundreds of people who have said, if there is a God, how come?
Yeah.
How come?
Absolutely.
And all I do, mate, is I say, listen, would you tell me like what's going on? And usually there's a load of heartache.
Yeah.
There's a load of, well, my mum died when I was a kid or my friend's got cancer, or this has happened, or this is, and all I do is I say, I'm so sorry to hear this. But listen,
Yeah.
I don't try and excuse it. I don't then say, listen, it'll be all right. You know, God loves you. Mate, I was standing on the streets and this woman came up to me. She said, excuse me. I was like, a bit rude, you know, because I was talking to someone. I was talking to the chuggers. Every city has them, right? The charity muggers.
Oh,
you know, with the clipboard, you know,
can we just
iPad.
Up for this? Yeah.
I don't know.
I avoid them
they're
more
just
than
trying
street preachers.
I prefer to become a Christian again and then give them like £5 a month. No, but it's they're paid to do that though, aren't they?
They are.
I mean, this is the bad
commissioned.
Yeah. I know.
Anyway, so you're talking chuggers. I like that. I'm going to shout.
I was giving cookies to chuggers and just chatting to them. But I had to, you know,
while you're trying to give them cookies and just be nice to them, are they still trying to sign you up to pay £5 a month? They're like, eat your cookies and I'll sign
you. Yeah, I don't. And this woman comes up to me and she's like, excuse me. I'm like, oh, you're right. She goes, what church do you represent? And I had like this hoodie on that said chaplaincy. I was like, oh, right. Like, there's loads of churches in the city centre. And she looked me in the eye. She went, would I be welcome? And I look at her.
Be a deacon. Sorry, go on.
And I say, do you want a brew? She goes, yeah. I said, come on. And we sit in this cafe, and she tells me that she's got everything that she needs to end her life. She's got it all. She's got the vodka, she's got the pills, it's in her bag. And she's crying, and the mess, the utter mess. I don't try and explain it away, flipping it. It is messy. It is utter mess. And I just say to her, listen, you don't have to do this, you know. She goes, yeah, I know. And I'm like, you know, but you've got the stuff. She goes, I'm not even meant to be in town. I'm like, okay. She goes, you know, you're the first person that I've ever approached in my entire life, like a stranger. And I saw you, and I knew I needed just to talk to you. And it's just a flipping miracle, because she'd got this plan to end her life. She's got everything. Things are so bad. She ends up living. She doesn't end her life. She ends up like actually getting baptized, like becoming a Christian, and like her family there who think she's lost it. You know, this is all made up. What are you? You know, it's all religious. It's all. And she sees me. I don't baptize. I'm just part of the service. And she sees me and she goes, "There's my angel." Gives me a big hug. You're my angel. If it wasn't for you, I'd be dead. You know, she's just telling everyone. I met this random fella giving out cookies to chuggers in the city centre. But, you know, Alan, imagine if I'd tried to explain away her suffering and her pain and, you know, try to argue with her about it.
Yeah.
I just listened. And I'm going to be honest, lads, this is going to sound a bit weird. I actually cried.
Yeah, no.
I sat with her and I cried. because the mess was so horrific. I mean, it is utter.
Yeah.
What had she'd gone through. And but God met with her, and I was just there, right? And I think too often we try and argue with people as to why there could be a God. Let me argue with you, and I'll give you the reasons why for suffering and evil in this world. And actually, all we need to do is say, "Do you want a brew?"
Very good.
Do you want to get a brew?
I like it.
What would you say then, Chris, to people? Maybe people are watching this, and what you're describing is just so far out of their worldview, or they're just here and think this is nuts. He seems like a nice guy, but this just seems crazy.
Yeah.
He's away with the fairies, this lad. Yeah.
What would your message be to people? Because we were chatting to someone the other day, and they were saying, over the last 3 or 4 years, everything that a lot of people put our faith and trust in has just been like pulled out, like the rug's been pulled out from under our feet, and people are feeling, a bit disorientated, a bit like uncertain, a bit kind of wobbled. Even, for me, a person of faith, it's been a disorientating season. And what would your message be for someone who's maybe not, not a person of faith, or just thinks this, it sounds really interesting what you're saying, but I'm not sure, I'm not sure.
Try it.
Okay.
So it's like, try it, not overthink it, but try it out. Just think of Bert. He's 82. He comes to our cafe, and someone invited him to Alpha, and he walked in. His first word was the F word, right? That's his first word. His second word was Jesus, but not in a, hey, I'm interested in this fella. And he said, "Oh, I'm only here for tonight," and that's it. See, he comes, he tells me stories that just make me, he makes me cry as well as makes me wet myself, because some of his stories are just hilarious. He's been a truck driver all his life. He's been a fighter, so a bare knuckle fighter. He'd go and make 10 quid in the fairs, in fighting.
Wow.
And he's a fighter, and
make a tenner, isn't it?
quick way to make a tenner.
Yeah.
But he would sit in our cafe. It's a little bit random because we have this box where people put in a few quid, so we don't charge anything in our cafe, and that freaks people out. They're like, "How much is it?" Thinking 15 quid for 2 lattes and we're like, "Oh no, it's nothing, but you can put something in." He spent the first 2 months coming to our cafe, watching that box like a hawk. Right? That was what, and he was, because he came along to Alpha, and actually people gave him a good welcome. They didn't tell him to sling his up because he started swearing and stuff.
Yeah.
Watch this box like a hawk, and then he says to me, "Look, I have to tell you something, Chrissy." And he's a Cockney lad. He goes, "What I used to do is have a sugar cube in my pocket," and I'm like, "Okay, is this rhyming slang? What's something going on?" And he goes, "No, what I used to do is lick my fingers, sugar cube." And that's how I would just and I would do that all the time. He would just thieve all the time, even in his 80s, right? He says, "I don't want to do that
so
anymore."
He'd lick the sugar cube, and then he'd be able to
get sticky fingers.
He could sticky his fingers so he could get the notes easier.
It's a good idea, that.
I know. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Nice one. Anyway, top
tips.
Yeah, Chris's top tips. God, so that's what he was doing in the cafe.
But he's recently become a follower of Jesus. But he says this: "How come I've only heard this in my 80s?"
Wow.
And then, he's brilliant.
His point of view is that no one's ever told him about.
No one has ever. You know what? It gets worse, Tom. He went. His missus dragged him along to a service, and his missus died last year, and it's sad stuff, right? It is. Dragged him along to a service, and the vicar called him a heathen.
Oh,
right. So he's like, and he's ready to punch the vicar, and his missus manages to get him out. But he keeps telling me, "Chris, you'd be so pleased with me. I didn't kick someone in the nuts." He says, I'm like, "Yeah, good one. That's great."
I was literally talking to people. I did a funeral for someone, and they said they'd been to a church for a christening.
Mm-hmm.
Said, and the vicar called them all heathens.
Wow.
Right, at the christening. And I'm thinking, oh, I can't believe it. I don't show that on my face. I might have said it. I was like, oh, that was a bit weird. And they went, weird. We didn't even know what it meant. We had to Google it, so we couldn't even get offended until we got home. Didn't know what he'd meant. Yeah. Googled it and then was like furious.
Too late then. Too late.
Oh, Chris, this has been great. I don't know how long we've been going, to be honest. Because we're nearly up to an hour. We're gonna. Wow. I wanted to talk about the Light College. You started the college to train people doing what you can't do. Well, you started a project which became the college, and that's a massive thing. I don't know how much time you've got, but
no, I can be quick about it.
Tell us a bit.
But we do. So we train people to do this stuff, right? Because we don't want to just train people in like just the Bible. We want to train people how do you apply it? How do you let others in on it? So all our modules, I mean, it's a BA in theology, right? But so it's proper going to uni, but all our modules are in how are people getting it? Are people able to learn, become disciples of Jesus, through this? So we've got 40 students up and down the country, South Coast up to Aberdeen, who are working with all kinds of churches, and they're training with us. We meet 6 times a year and meet every week online.
Yeah,
great.
Wow. Do you do them barista ones where you train them to be baristas as well? Is that what you do?
You know what? It's so funny because some of our students are asking that at the moment. Like, how do we train? No, we don't do the barista training, but honestly, they are asking.
What happens if we could give you a barista placement where we train them to be a barista, but they also do the thing with you?
Yeah.
Is there a link up there?
There is.
To talk about this.
I just think Alan's trying to get someone to make him a coffee at his house. That's literally.
No, I'm thinking about our coffee. Which we could have it. It could link in. It could be good.
Could be very good.
Anyway,
Chris, thank you so much for chatting. And people can go on and find the Light Project. Just Google.
Yeah, so it's lightcollege.ac.uk.
Right. Very good.
And you would also, I want to say, probably the best president we've ever had of the Baptist Union. I remember when you were. When they voted you in, and I was like, wow, in a good way, I remember saying it to you, and you thought I was meaning, wow, how are you become the president? Once I was like, wow, this is a bold, good move by the Baptist Union, because let's be honest, they picked some wrong uns as well, haven't they? You don't have to say anything there, Chris. It's fine. I understand, but I can say it. They've picked some wrong uns.
That's just one of those things, isn't it? Presidents. Like, I don't know what people make of that. Presidents.
I think Chris was one of the best, and then I was training at the time. That's how I met you, I think, and all the cheese stories and all that. But and then you came to our college and done the workshops with us, and it was probably one of the best things that we'd done in college as well, because it was very practical. It was very much, okay, that's the theory. However, what are you going to do with it? Which was very good. I just want to say, but you've been you started college. Mad on the streets. You're the president of the Baptist Union.
You've written books.
You've written books with smackheads in the title and got away with it. Where I got like complaints.
You did.
So I can tell. I don't even have to ask this question. But almost. How's faith made a difference in your life?
It has. I've put all my eggs in the one basket, Alan. I really have. I've put everything into this. That's it.
That's it. You're fabulous.
And that's what we're actually, to be fair, when we're chatting to people who do that, and people have done that, the stories they then come out with about how they've lived their life, and not that it's bed of roses by any means. There's
we get the highlights as well, don't we?
Yeah,
we get all the
but
there's tough times as well.
Yeah, but people who have just lived lives that are, just adventurous.
Yeah.
Like just fun. And we only get one life, don't we? We only get one life.
The last 3 interviews of this Zoom type have been this kind of.
Yeah, people say, I've gone all in.
I went all in, and this is what's happened.
Yeah.
Wow. I've enjoyed this.
That's been great.
Yeah.
Chris, every guest who comes on Finnegan's basically gets an opportunity. Like this is, I don't know, this has been like it isn't literally an interview, but not like a job interview at the end. We get to decide whether you can be a member of Finnegan's Bar. I think Chris would be a good member because He'd be handing out free hugs
and coffees
and coffees
and free food
sofa. So I'm all for it, Chris. So if you tell a story and it's funny or it intrigues us or whatever, then what happens is
nothing
happens.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. Sorry,
get him
Chris,
on the wall, lad.
You did it live. Go on, do it again.
Get him on the wall, lad.
So we put you on the wall, Chris, as if your name will appear here amongst some of the best people who are members of Finnegan.
I love that.
Finnegan's whenever you want. You can come and hang out.
Yeah,
we'd love to see you here. But sadly, if you tell a story,
that you think,
I'm sure about this, then what happens is
you're bad, lad.
So that's what happens. You just get barred, and we can never speak to you again. Which would be sad.
Even when
that would be quite sad, actually.
Conferences and that, we just have to blank you.
Yeah.
Walk on the other side of the street, like the priest and the Levite in the story.
Yeah.
We've got to do that to you, sorry.
So we'll hand over to you, Chris.
I'm just trying to engage which one's going to be better. I want to talk to you lads again.
Already, you've told some great stories.
It feels sly to make him tell another one.
I'll tell a really quick story because I know we have gone on. So my friend Dave, I've been teaching people for years and years. Listen, you got the pen ready and everything.
Well, yeah, I have got the pen ready. Sorry, I feel it's going to go well. But
so for years and years, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I've been saying, listen to people, just listen to them. And Dave, he offers a cup of tea to this woman who comes into Spoonies, and and he's listening, and she's quite hard of hearing, so it's not, but he's just listening. Long story, listening about her weekend that she's got planned and where she's staying. And he thinks, look, I've listened for so long, I'm going to offer to pray for this woman. I've done my bit, I'm going to offer. So he says, listen, could I pray for your weekend? And this dear old lady looks him in the eye and says, no, you can't. You can't. Oh, no. You can't do that. And he's like, oh, I've messed it up here. What have I done? She says, you can't pay for my weekend. It's too much. He's like, no, can I pray for your weekend? Anyway, that's it. That's the story.
You'd be fuming, wouldn't you, if she's like gone brilliant?
Yes.
Yeah. 200 quid.
There's the bill.
Because you wouldn't be able to change at that point, would you? I'd be too embarrassed to say, all in. No, all I was going to say was pray. Which could be as good as £200. Great.
I think there's only one outcome.
Chris,
we've got to get him on the wall, lad.
Get him on the wall, lad.
Here we go.
You can be over there with the big wigs.
Yeah.
There
we go, Chris.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been fab.
Thank you, Alan.
Really enjoyed it.
Great to see you as well, Tom.
Engaging with this nonsense that we do. It's fabulous to have you on, and just a big thank you, really.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've got to do this. Yeah, I keep forgetting about this bit on these ones. So we're going to call time on it, Chris. So time, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us at Finnegan's once again. Thanks, Chris. It's been a blast. See you later.
Bless you.